course with something really scary.
Attention. Do I have everybody's attention now?
Hey, now it's overtime, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking professional wrestling today, actually. We're going to be talking All Elite Wrestling. I did the preview show this week, and I was hoping to be able to do a reaction show with JD, but it is 8 p.m. in Hawaii, which would mean it's at midnight where JD lives in Chicago. So that's just not going to work. So, man, this time difference between us is killing us, man. I really do wish that we lived in the same time zone so we can coordinate a lot better. But by the time I'm able to record, it's just way too late for him. So I got the wife and the kid in the other room, so I'm gonna try to keep my voice down a little bit. But hold on, swig of water for All Elite Wrestling. I thought they had a home run of a show, man. I thought they knocked it out of the park. They had over 50,000. I think they were like 54,000 tickets sold by bell time. Obviously they had some sections tarped off, which is to be expected because last year they had I think they sold like 80,000 tickets, and so a little bit of a drop off this year. But it's like, fuck, it's 54,000 tickets. That ain't nothing to sniff at either. That's still like one of the more attended shows of all time. That's right in line with some of the top of the line WWE shows. So you got to give a secondary promotion. You got to, obviously give them a big hand for that because that's pretty freaking awesome. And I thought the show was really good, top to bottom. There were some stinkers on the show, and I'll get to those as I go through my match by match review. But I would say more importantly was that this was a very newsworthy show. Lots of they had some debuts, some returns, long-awaited returns, some really good surprises. A lot of cool stuff happened on the show. And then I thought, and I'm gonna do a Joe and Rich Voices of Wrestling. I'm gonna do what they typically do, and I'm gonna start with the main event first, and then I'm gonna get into all the news, and then I'll go match by match. That's how we'll do it. But man, that main event was something else. It wasn't a 5-star match, although I think if somebody did give it 5, I'd be like, okay, I see your point. I just felt like there were some moments in there that were a bit too over the top for me, just like preference wise, but it was like pretty close to being like perfect. But I thought that the execution of the main event, the drama in the main event, having the family out there, the way they went off the air, with Bryan Danielson getting his big moment that he'd been telling us for weeks he didn't want. but even though he didn't want it, he still enjoyed the fact that he got it, and we all got to see it. I thought that was just tremendous. I thought it was a great ending to a really fun show. There were a couple of moments in the match that I felt were a bit unnecessary, and that's probably why I wouldn't go like full on 5 boy. Not that I don't really do I don't have a notebook. I don't write all this stuff down. I'm just I just have like an instant reaction to it. And I don't really like going over 5 for anything. So if I'm like telling you 5 boy, that means like it was pretty damn near perfect. And that this one was pretty close to that. And so if you said 4.5, you said 5, I would probably agree with both sentiments. I'm just saying I'm just like a little bit short of 5. And there were 2 moments specifically that I was just like, oh man, if they didn't do this, like this match would have been a little bit better. It would have been close to perfect. I understand why they had Hangman come out because they want to connect Hangman back to Swerve. He has been talking about Swerve for a while, and Swerve just wants nothing to do with him. Swerve doesn't care about him. Swerve has moved on with his life, and he beat his ass multiple times. There's no reason for Swerve to fight the guy, and Hangman can't seem to get any wins, so it's like, I'm not going to defend my title against the guy. I'm the champion. Why would I mess with this cat? So that all makes sense to me. So I understand why they brought him out, because they wanted to connect Swerve back to Hangman. It was rumored, and we talked about it on the Mike and JD show, that Swerve and Hangman are going to be not headlining, obviously, because Swerve's not the champion, but they would be wrestling at All Out. That was the plan. That could always change, but that was what Ibu was pretty plugged in with those guys. That's what he was saying. So that makes sense. However, and he came out, towards the end of the match. He distracted Swerve enough to make him lose his train of thought, and then it didn't lead to the finish. So the match went a few more minutes, and that's that's AEW's way of doing interference, doing gaga, doing chicanery and shenanigans without doing screw job finishes. They kind of dance around that stuff, and I honestly I respect it. I just didn't want it in this match. And people, and I know what you're going to say. It was like, oh, well, it didn't cost them the match. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was just annoyed that it was happening. It's more of a personal preference. And I get that they want to connect Swerve and Hangman back together to start promoting the next show. But they got, 10 hours of television before All Out to get there. They could do it like when more people are watching on Wednesday. And they can continue to get there. They can use Rampage. They can use Collision. Right. So there's 5 hours of television right there. And then they have 5 more hours the following week. So there are ways to get there without having him interrupt the match. I was like, by the end of the night, and AEW has been doing this more and more lately, and they're featuring interferences more. And I was like, I just didn't want it in this match. I just didn't want it. But again, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, and it didn't really drag the match down too bad. The other thing I just thought was silly and was like, we don't need it, because Danielson always is going to sell that he has a bad neck and he has a bad brain. he's got, he's definitely got CTE. He's going to be selling that during the match. Well, they did a spot where Swerve hit the vertebraker, and then Doc Samson came in to check on Danielson. The referee kind of stopped the match, brings in the doc, and that's all well and good. The problem is that it was just like a normal routine flat back bump. There was really no reason for the doc to be worried. There were actually way worse moves in that match where the doc should have come in and probably could have stopped it. Like, but like the repeated, blows to the head that Swerve was giving him with the little sidekick he does. It was way worse than the flat back bump that he took on the vertebraker. So I thought that part was silly. So those two parts of the match specifically, but other than that, it was damn near perfect. And it was such a great way to go home. And as soon as JD and I talked about it during on one of our podcasts when Danielson was first announced for the Owens, like, yeah, it makes sense that he wins it, and then he goes on, he beats Swerve, and then he flips his title back to Swerve in Tacoma. Now I don't know if that's going to be the plan or not, but that was kind of like our original idea. And I think when we had Josh Fialkov on, that's when we said that. And then of course we pivoted a couple of times and we were like, oh no, it has to be Hangman. And then, but looks like we'll get the Hangman match at All Out. And that should be an awesome match. And looks like we'll probably get Danielson versus Christian Cage. And I'll get into the Christian Cage stuff when I go by the match by match stuff, but I don't really, I'm sure it'll be a good match, but I'm not really all that interested. Fightful did have a report after the show. It said Bryan Danielson is a new AEW World Champion, a moment many thought would never come. For a long time, Danielson had been vocal about his reluctance to hold the championship in AEW. Fightful reported that Danielson actively pushed against winning titles, preferring to focus on elevating other talent rather than being the face of the company. However, Tony Khan was determined to see Danielson as champion, especially during a moment as historic as AEW All In at Wembley Stadium. Sources revealed that the decision to have Danielson main event All In against Swerve Strickland was made as early as April, despite speculation that Will Ospreay would headline the event. That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted the Will Ospreay match. But what we got was still pretty fucking cool. So it's like there's no real way to complain. So there were even jokes backstage about a reverse Montreal screw job to ensure Danielson walked away with the title. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Danielson is still pretty banged up though. And I think he'll have a little bit of a run here. That's why I'm like, you know what? Flip the title back to Swerve in Tacoma. I think Swerve has cemented himself as a top guy. He is absolutely a main eventer. Now, they may want to wait till next year to put the title back on him, but it would not shock me to see them go right back to Swerve at the Tacoma Dome. He's been a really good champion. Business is down, but I don't think it's going up with Danielson either. I think they need a lot more than who the champion is to get business back on the right track. But he was still a very good champion, and he's going to be a top guy here in AEW for a long time, especially with him re-signing his contract. Jamie Hayter also returned. This scoop was actually brought to us earlier in the week by one Ryan Frederick from Fight Game Media. He is also a member of the Wrestling Observer Network. He does the UFC recaps in the Observer newsletter every week. And he was telling us, God, I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday. He told us in a group chat, and then he tweeted out the Hayter GIF. And so some of us quote tweeted that to kind of give some shine on Ryan, who had there's been times where I think there was one time where he had something and then it just didn't work out, and a lot of people attacked him over it. It's like, well, look, that's, that sucks. Ryan's a good dude too, but when you play the scoops game, that happens, man. But I'll be honest, he's had a lot of scoops. And I never run with him because they're his scoops. That's just his stuff. Now, if he DM'd me and was like, Mike, you want this one? But I'll take it. Yeah. But I never do that to him. So, but he had that one, and I have to go back to our chat, but he had another one that also came true. It was a Ricochet one. Yeah, it was that was like Ryan was talking about that, I think like last week. So, Ryan's got the scoops. So pay attention to his Twitter, man. If he's tweeting out like a random GIF, a la Andrew Zarian. Now Zarian will do he'll do the eyeball emojis and stuff like Ryan will try to fuck around like that too. And if I retweet it, I can't now because I'm off. I got locked out of my Twitter account. I should have started the episode with that. Yeah. So I enjoyed AEW. I enjoyed All In so much that I said, and All In was very heavy storytelling. The whole show was heavy on storytelling. And it's probably like if WWE fans weren't so up their own asses, right, and just so tribalistic and worried about defending WWE and tearing down anything that comes that is perceived as a threat, they would have loved this show because it had everything that they like, for real. They had really good wrestling, had storytelling, had drama, had comedy, had everything that WWE fans like. In fact, probably to the detriment of the AEW diehards. But we got such good wrestling in a couple of these matches that we're all just pretty happy. So, but yeah, after the match, I said, if you don't think the people that say AEW doesn't do stories need to climb up on something high and jump, or I said something like that. I guess somebody reported me for telling people to commit suicide. That's not what I was doing. I was saying, basically saying eat shit. So anyway, Elon Musk locked me out of my Twitter account because of that. So, which is fun. I've never been locked out of my Twitter account. This is the first time. I've never been kicked off Twitter, and I say some pretty wild shit sometimes, but it is what it is, man. But yeah, Jamie Hayter made her triumphant return to All In, ending months of speculation about her future. Hayter had been sidelined with injury since May of 2023 and required special clearance just to compete at Double or Nothing, where she dropped the AEW Women's title to Toni Storm. By the summer of 2023, it was clear to AEW that Hayter would not be returning until at least 2024. However, as months passed, the possibility of Hayter returning sooner became more realistic. According to sources close to Hayter, she attended last week's Collision to meet with Tony Khan to finalize plans for her return to All In. Although there were discussions about a short squash match for her return, those plans were not finalized until the week of the event. Now cleared for in-ring action, Hayter's return adds significant depth, much needed depth in my opinion, to the AEW's women's division. So she returned on the pre-show and attacked Saraya. Saraya then after on the post show did kind of like did a shoot style deal, doing a bunch of F-bombs and all this and that. I think that Saraya's contract is coming up, and it would not shock me to see AEW just let her walk because she stinks. She's a lemon, unfortunately. And honestly, if they do shit can her or they do let her walk, wouldn't shock me if TNA tried to pick her up. That wouldn't shock me in the least. Because I don't think WWE would want her because, the injuries caught up to her. She started at such a young age and worked a pretty decently hard style. She really did, especially for someone her size. So, So I think she's got, but Hayter's back. I think she had a back injury. I don't know if it was ever released, but I think I heard it was a back injury that kept her out. So it's good to see her back. Speaking of returning, Daniel Garcia made his return to AEW during the pay-per-view. He got involved in the match between MJF and Will Ospreay. He just distracted MJF again, like interference, right? There was a lot of that. Ref bumps and ref distractions, low blows, all that stuff. But yeah, he got involved there to distract MJF. However, Garcia's future with AEW remains uncertain. According to PW Insider, Garcia is under contract with AEW until October and is still in discussions about a possible extension. But him being involved in a high-profile match like this could be a sign that either AEW's already got him or they're pretty confident that they're gonna have him re-signed soon. Nigel McGuinness was probably the biggest surprise of the evening, at least in my opinion. And one of the most surprising moments of All In, I would say the most surprising, Nigel McGuinness returned to the ring for the first time since 2011. I think that was back. I think he was Desmond Wolfe was last time he wrestled. I don't know that he left TNA, and I know he went back to Ring of Honor, was a commentator. I don't know that he ever wrestled after that TNA stint. I'd have to look into that. I don't really know. But he returned as part of the AEW Casino Gauntlet match. He talked to Alicia Atoot after his return. He reflected on his journey, recalling his attendance at WWE SummerSlam 1992 at Wembley Stadium and how it inspired his dream of becoming a professional wrestler. He goes on to say, "When I first found out that we were coming to Wembley and that was a possibility, what you saw tonight was only a short part of it. It's been a year and a half that I've been thinking about that moment, walking out in front of my home crowd. It was surreal. I can't believe it really happened," McGuinness said. He didn't win the match, but he did get to return at Wembley. That was such a cool moment. There are a lot of AEW's fan base are like old school Ring of Honor heads that really dig Nigel's work. I'll be honest, I was not big into Ring of Honor during Nigel's heyday, but I have since then gone back and watched a lot of his stuff, specifically his stuff against Bryan Danielson. And I think that if he's going to return, and you know what, he did look like it had been, 13 years since he wrestled. It did, it took him a while to get heated up. He was trying to do some of his stuff that he was doing a long time ago, and he's, tad slower. But he still looked good, I thought. And it was just really cool to see him. I don't know how you have him return and not go there. I think you got to do it. You got to do Danielson versus McGuinness. That has to happen at some point for the title. Now, I don't know if you do it on TV or pay-per-view. I don't know that Nigel sells any pay-per-views. I could be wrong. He's a great promo. He's good on television. But I don't think anybody I know the hardcore Ring of Honor audience, there's a very small group of them. I don't think many of the typical AEW fan, I don't say casual fan, but that AEW gained a lot of fans since their inception that weren't really on board with Ring of Honor. They have a lot of new fans. So I don't know that I think a lot of them probably just see Nigel as the announcer guy and not the former badass wrestler from Ring of Honor. So we'll see. But I think we got to do it. Let's see. Also, hold on. Ricochet debuted. So he debuted in AEW in that same gauntlet match and marking a new chapter in his wrestling career. As reported earlier this week, Ricochet signed a multi-year contract with AEW. His addition to the roster is expected to bring even more high-flying action to AEW. Yeah. And he got started right away, man. And it looks like he's going to be wrestling Kyle Fletcher coming up this Wednesday, I believe, in Champaign, Illinois. And Will Ospreay already wants the match. And I'm like, let's not fuck around. Let's do Will Ospreay and Ricochet for the international title at All Out in Chicago. We don't need to wait. We don't need a storyline. We don't need anything. Let them fucking do it. Just do it. Just do it. There's no reason not to do it at this point. And Ricochet is not a guy that you need to protect. He's never going to be the world champion. He might be the TNT champion one day. He might be a trios champion. Hell, I could see him even getting that international title. Not this time, but I can see him getting it down the road. So you can have him get a win over Fletcher, then he can get a win over somebody else the following week, and then boom, just let him and Ospreay go at it. Or hell, you could do a draw. That wouldn't even be like the worst thing. I know they just did one recently. I think Claudio and Okada just did a draw for the Continental title. But you could do that too. Just let them go out there. It's like, look, their matches from New Japan were so awesome, and they were so green at the time. They really didn't have everything down. They got it down now. They're grown-ass men now. They were just kids when they had those matches. They're men now. I want to see these two men fucking go at it and be the badass wrestlers that we all know that they could be. I really want to see it. I think they should just go for it. Write it all out. All right, now let me get to some. They actually announced a few events coming up in the not only next year but the following year. So AEW announced a series of major events that will further expand its global reach. Following the success of All In at Wembley, AEW confirmed that the event will return to Wembley Stadium in 2026. But before that, the 2025 edition of All In will take place at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. In addition, AEW and New Japan will bring their annual joint pay-per-view Forbidden Door to London August 24, 2025. Collaboration between the two biggest wrestling promotions in the world already gained significant traction. So yeah, they've had it in Chicago and Toronto, and now they're bringing it to London. So that should be pretty damn exciting. And they're moving it looks like, from June to August. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty badass. And then adding to their global expansion, AEW announced that AEW Grand Slam Australia is set for February 25th, 2025 at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, Australia. This will mark AEW's Australian debut, further solidifying the promotion's commitment to growing its international presence. The decision to bring a major event like Grand Slam to Australia is a bold move that underscores AEW's ambition to become a truly global wrestling brand. This has been one of the things they've been missing, is getting out there in these other continents and these other countries. But now they finally went into Canada, and they're this is their second time coming to the UK. They obviously did Wales earlier in the week. Forbidden Door next year. They're going back to Wembley in 2026, and now they're opening up Australia. So pretty cool. And then of course they're doing the joint pay-per-view with New Japan in Tokyo at the Tokyo Dome in January. So yeah, they're going all over, man. Now I do have to. It did make me think that with all these added shows, specifically Grand Slam Australia, which is another major event that was not on the calendar, Revolution has either taken place in February or March. I think it took place in March last year, or earlier this year. So now they got one in February, and then they moved Forbidden Door from June to August, and All In is also in August. So I get the feeling with all these added major, and I'm going to say it, premium live events, I think that a Max deal is coming. I at least I would hope that these are going to be just like, if you have a subscription to Max, you can just watch them. I think that's what's going to grow this company the most. Other than obviously getting a heated up star, but I think that's what's going to grow the company the most. And I don't have any inside information on this, but I'm hearing that this TV deal will include Max, and it's going to be coming sooner rather than later. It would not have made sense to announce it in England, since it won't really affect their market there, unless of course they announced that they were moving to TNT Sports, which WBD owns, because WWE has moved off of TNT Sports and they will be on Netflix in the UK going forward. So that does open that up. So I guess maybe they could have done that, but that would be a smaller deal to announce. So that's probably something you can do in a press release. So I think they wanted to wait to come back to the States. I think that I have a really strong feeling that TV deal is signed. It's just waiting for lawyer approval, and that announcement could come as early as this week. And I believe that when it does, I'll have my phone on me, and I'm just going to call JD and we'll try to do a breaking news audio. because we've been covering this story, I feel like, for 2 years. For 2 fucking years. And I'm sick of it. I'm ready for it to be over with. And I get the feeling that it's going to be a very good deal. And we'll probably get that announcement coming up this week. All right. Let me see. Man, how long have I been in here? Let's see. 25 minutes. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the match by match recap. I did get to watch every single match with one exception. And I'll tell you guys what that match was. But first, let's go to a 0 hour. Let's see. 0 hour was right here. 0 hour. Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, Katsuyori Shibata, and the Von Erichs versus Cage of Agony and the Undisputed Kingdom. That match was not very good, but I believe, Dustin Rhodes. Hold on. What the hell is going on here? Fightful got me all screwed up. Hold on. They had it mixed up. So Dustin Rhodes' team won. Dustin Rhodes, Guevara, Shibata, and the Von Erichs, they won. This match was a sloppy mess. It wasn't very good. They took way too long to set up spots. And it was very much them just trying to get everybody on the show. And more power to them. Peace and love, peace and love. The first match, though, was Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Action Andretti, Leo Rush. I guess Leo Rush, is he signed here again? He's been on a lot lately. And Top Flight versus Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Davari, Private Party, Dark Order. There was a lot of people in this match, and the Fletcher's team won. And again, it was just kind of a cluster, not very good. But I think the crowd there enjoyed it. It was what it was. It wasn't anything like that anybody needs to go out of their way to see. It was a pre-show match. They got to get all their talent on the show, though. 0 hour, we got Ishii and Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. I was appalled at the fact that this was the best match they can come up with Ishii, like a comedy match with Stokely. It's like you have one of the great wrestlers of all time, and he's just on the pre-show wrestling Stokely. But like that doesn't mean the match wasn't entertaining. It was. He's a funny character. He's a funny like undercard pre-show character. But I just have such an affinity for Ishii. I just feel like it was a waste. I don't like them doing comedy shtick with Ishii. And I know that he does some comedy stuff in New Japan, but when it's a big time, well, now you know what? They've actually cooled him down lately. He wasn't even in the G1 this year. In fact, they just sent him to the States on an excursion when he's in his 40s. But I don't know. I didn't like the fact that he was in this match. They could have put literally anybody else in the match. Or it just didn't need to happen altogether. But look, they want to get everybody on the show. You know, that's just that's what they do for these big shows. And I think they got heat when they didn't do that last year. And then at this point, so it was after, so the main event of 0 hour was the Dustin Rhodes match. I got twisted up. But after that match, Harley Cameron and the entire Knight family appeared in the ring. Cameron asking everyone in the crowd to simmer down. And then that's at that point, Saraya was mad, so she's not going to leave until she got the respect she deserves. And that's when Jamie Hayter came out and kicked everybody's asses. Jamie Hayter looking a lot like Becky Lynch here. Like her hair is red. She's trimmed down quite a bit. And she looked a lot like Becky. Pretty funny. And then the pay-per-view opens up with the AEW Trios Championship ladder match. Clusterfuck. But a fun one. I can't say that it wasn't fun. Action-packed. The Gun Club did the get the tables at one point. It would take me forever to go through the play-by-play on this one. But the winner and new AEW World Trios Champion was Pac in the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. I want to give a shout-out to Nick Wayne. I thought Nick Wayne looked like he had some cool spots this match, but there was a million spots, so it's hard to... These matches are hard to keep up with. Again, it was them trying to get everybody on the show. And then, of course, it's AEW pay-per-view, so we got to do a ladder match. I'll be honest, I'm kind of like, no matter what the company is, like when they announce the ladder match, I just kind of roll my eyes. And then when I watch, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's still pretty good. I don't care about it, but it's fun to watch, if that makes any sense at all. Like, I don't care that Pac and Claudio and Wheeler are the Trios champions. Like it just doesn't matter to me. It's not really important, but that doesn't mean that the match wasn't fun. It was fun. But the show really picks up here with the next match. We have the AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm, defending against Mariah May. This was the payoff of their almost 1 year storyline. And I want to say that I was not into this storyline at first. I really was. And I poo-pooed it. I didn't really care for the Toni Storm gimmick. It's way too over the top for me. And that's not why I watch AEW. If that character was on TNA or if it was on WWE, I'd probably like it more because that's just what they do. But the fact that she was doing something outside of the norm for AEW, I just didn't like it, which contradicts some of my belief system. But it is what it is. Like I watch AEW and I don't want to see that shit. But anyway, she ended up getting it over, and much to my dismay. And I wasn't really into it until the Mariah May turn, and then that's when I started to get into it. I did feel like the turn was one of the most executed turns that they've ever done in this company. They might have done it a little bit too early because I just don't think they had a lot of good stuff to follow up with it. But it was still huge for this show. And I thought the match absolutely delivered. It was tremendous. It was probably, like if we're to rank them, it's like right up there with the main event. It's not like, I think if you're like giving like star ratings, it's not very much lower than the main event. And it's not much lower than Ospreay and MJF. I thought the match was tremendous. We'll go to the end here. May showed the middle finger to Storm and started firing away with slaps at Storm before they had a slap exchange, exchanging low blows and headbutts while referee Aubrey Edwards was distracted. Of course, distraction the referee. Storm faked May and went for a Storm Zero, but May evaded and hit the Mayday on Storm for a near fall. May tried to get the women's world title, but Luther got the title to stop May. Luther shouldn't exist. He shouldn't be on my television. He is a waste of fucking space. May then got the shoe, but Storm stomped her foot. Storm was tempted to stab May with a shoe, but she threw the shoe. May responded with a jackknife cover before hitting 2 vicious knee strikes and hitting the Storm Zero on Storm to pick up the win. It has now come home, and May is the women's world champion in an absolutely fucking tremendous match. These two ladies killed it. Knocked it out of the park. Now we're going to go to the match that I didn't see. But I heard it was terrible. And I'm going to believe the people that said it was terrible. Although I think Joe Lanza might have liked it, but I think that he like cuts Jericho some slack sometimes. But I don't, and I'm probably not going to go back and watch it because the people that I respect, not that I don't respect Joe, I do. But there's some other, like enough people told me that the match was crap that I'm just going to go ahead and be like, yeah, it was probably crap. But it's a Chris Jericho versus Hook. And I've been like, I've never really been a Hook guy, although his dad was one of my favorite wrestlers, but I just like, there's nothing interesting about him. Everybody's like, oh, his hair's so cool. No. Like, oh, he's got vibes and aura. It's like, no, not to me. He's just never really been interesting to me. And I just don't think he's particularly very good in the ring, and he hasn't gotten any better because he doesn't work. He doesn't wrestle that much, so he's just not going to get better. But and their last match I thought was terrible. It had me like, I'm not like a guy that's like saying Chris Jericho should retire, but after their last match, their last singles match, I was like, yeah, maybe he should. This was pretty bad. But anyway, Hook got the FTW championship, and they should really just put that belt on Daddy's mantelpiece and not bring it back to television. It has no meaning. It was a cool thing when I was a teenager watching ECW, and Taz couldn't get the world title, so he's created his own belt. But next we go to the AEW Tag Team Championships. The Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed versus FTR. And the Young Bucks got the big victory here. It was a pretty good match. But as you would expect with these three teams, it's going to be pretty good. I just felt like the Acclaimed, and I said it going into it, so maybe I have like a prejudice already. Like I was like, they don't really, the Acclaimed shouldn't be in this match. We should just let the two legendary teams go at it. But I know why they wanted the Acclaimed in there. It's like a young team, and they want to get some shine on those guys. But if they weren't winning it, it's like you're not really getting them shine. They've been the World Tag Team Champions before. They fizzled out. They have. So they had 3 teams on this one. They had the multi-trios ladder match. And then they had all the 0-hour multi-person matches. And then we got the Casino Gauntlets. It's like, man, can we just have... Couldn't this one just be like 2 teams destroying it? I don't know. Too much for me. But after the match, Grizzly Young Vets, James Drake and Zach Gibson, they didn't make their debut, but it looks like they have signed here. It looks like they're all elite. So former NXT UK, they actually had a little stint in TNA in the first quarter of 2024. But they did a couple of matches. I want to say like probably just tryout matches, and they've been negotiating for a long time. Now with the Lucha Brothers on their way to WWE, it's like, boom, here you go. You got the Grizzly Young Vets. So here you go. But they ended up attacking FTR after the match. So looks like that'll be the first feud for them, which would be a really good match. 2 really good teams. Then we go to the AEW World Championship number 1 contenders Casino Gauntlet match. And I gotta admit something. I thought this was a Royal Rumble. So I'm watching it, and like for the first half of it, I legit thought it was Royal Rumble. And then I saw people like jumping over the top rope to the outside. I was like, oh, they should be eliminated. And then they weren't. I was like, oh, maybe that's just the rules. Maybe like you can do that because it's AEW. But I just didn't make any sense. I kept thinking. And they had a referee in the ring, but I was like, it just didn't occur to me. And then like they started doing pinfall. I was like, oh, maybe this is like a battle riot. Maybe you have to throw them over the ropes or pin them. But no, you can only win by pinfall or submission. And you had, whatever it was. I think they have a number on here towards the end. I don't know how many people were actually in this match, but 10. So 10 was Ricochet. Let's see who was after Ricochet. I think after Ricochet. And then the next entrant was Christian Cage. And then after Christian Cage, I believe it was just Lucha Suckass. Yeah, I think so it was just 12 people. So it seemed like there was more, but the match is really good. Don't get me wrong. I just thought it was Royal Rumble. I was just confused. Maybe that was probably me not paying attention because I had it on when I was in the gym. I took my iPad with me to my little Gilbert Fitness Center and was like lifting weights and watching it at the same time, making sure I always had it in like eye view. But this was where we had the 2 big surprises of Nigel McGuinness, and then Ricochet wasn't really a surprise. I told you he was going to be in this match, and he was. But Nigel McGuinness being in the match was like a big surprise. So Orange Cassidy and Okada were 1 and 2, and then they did their stuff, and then that's when McGuinness came out, and that was probably the biggest pop of the match. And then Zack Sabre Jr. was a surprise. He certainly wasn't being promoted for it, but he's been in the company several times. So it's not like that big of a deal. But he was obviously he won the G1 this year, so it's kind of cool. And he's a hometown guy, so they brought him in. But I thought the match was very good, awesome match. I didn't like the Christian Cage one. I love Christian Cage, but they had so many other guys in this match, and I know why the Hangman didn't win, because they're going to do Hangman versus Swerve, and Swerve was losing the title. So it makes sense for Hangman not to be the number 1 contender. But they could have done Okada. They could have done, they certainly could have done Ricochet. That would have been fine. I'm not like a guy that thinks that he has to win his first match. I mean, he didn't get pinned or anything, but they certainly could have done that. And I don't think anybody would have made a stink about that. But they could have done Okada, or they have so many other people on this roster they could have done it with. Somebody they're trying to build and elevate. Christian Cage just had a title shot a couple months ago at the April pay-per-view. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to see him and Danielson wrestle. I do. But I just feel like this company has so many talent, such a deep roster, that I feel like we should be giving opportunities to other people other than these 50-year-old WWE dudes. No offense, Christian Cage, who is one of the all-time greats, but he just had his opportunity. He's headlined All Out before. I don't think he's going to sell extra pay-per-views or extra tickets, so it's not one of those situations. I feel like they have a lot of other people they could have done this with. It did not need to be Christian. And in fact, Sean Ross Sapp was in his Discord. Shout out to the people that like to screenshot him. But I caught wind that he is saying in his Discord that the original winner was planned to be Hangman, and then Christian Cage talked his way into it. Now, I don't know how true that is, but Sapp's a pretty plugged-in guy. So I'm not reporting that. That's just what he said on his Discord. And I actually read the post in the Discord. So he legit said that. So he didn't say that it was nefarious or anything, but it's certainly one could argue that it was nefarious. But who knows? Now we go to what was probably the match of the night. Which no surprise here considering the two participants, but MJF versus Will Ospreay for the American Championship. MJF came out wearing damn near, it was like a cross between Lex Luger's gear, which I think that was who he was paying tribute to, but it looked just like the outfit that Moose wore at Slammiversary. He did the same gimmick because Moose was going into Montreal and he wanted to be pro-American in Montreal. And MJF literally did the same thing a month later. Now, I don't know that MJF watches TNA, but I get the feeling he probably does. I was like, that's a good idea. And just took it. Which, hey, look, I'm not mad. That's pro wrestling. That's just how it goes. There was a ton that happened in this match. Obviously, Garcia getting involved, ref distractions, low blows, all kinds of stuff like that. But it was such a damn good match, and you can't really be mad at the match. It was fantastic. But MJF, we'll go to the end here. MJF went for the hidden blade, but Ospreay ducked before Ospreay pushed MJF onto the referee. MJF then bit Ospreay in the head as the referee was down before going for the Tiger Driver 91. Oh, excuse me. But Ospreay evaded before being caught with a low blow by MJF. MJF then got wrapped knucks. But a hooded man attacked MJF and hit him with a fist. The masked member was revealed to be Daniel Garcia. That was a huge pop. MJF was livid by Garcia attacking him, but that allowed Ospreay to hit the hidden blade on MJF. Ospreay then picked MJF back up, and finally he got MJF and hit the Tiger Driver 91. Our long national nightmare is over. Ospreay is no longer going to be whining about the stupid fucking Tiger Driver that he did to Danielson, that Danielson only missed a week of work and is now the world champion. But he's able to do it now. He did it on MJF to pick up the pinfall, and he got the American title now. But then Christopher Daniels shows up and actually gave him the international title, which was the belt that Ospreay had held before. And he made it seem like this was some important title, but this is like it's just one of their undercard belts. But I mean, it was a damn good match. Can't hate the match, man. It's good stuff. I love Ospreay, and obviously MJF is tremendous. Now we go to where this match. I think the placement of this next match was not smart. They should have done something in between this match. They could have, like, I legit think that trios tag match should just not have been on the show, and they probably should have opened the show up with this specific match. But next we go to TBS Championship match: Mercedes Moné versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and the match was not good. I know Britt Baker seemed a little bit rusty, but she's wrestled recently. This is not her first match back. So they just seemed like they weren't on the same page. I think the lack of crowd noise got to them a little bit. I think they tried to overdo it at times. That doesn't mean they didn't hit some cool spots. They did. I just felt like the match was off. And yeah, it wasn't great. Mercedes Moné can be a tremendous worker, especially when she's in there with somebody that's pretty damn good. She's not the type to carry a mediocre wrestler, and Britt Baker, when she's not bleeding, is very mediocre. When she's not like in a blood feud, she's very mediocre. And so you got what you got, and that's why I was like, this match might not be that great, but I do think they're going to hit a ton of kickouts, and that's probably going to get people to like it more. and they did do some kickouts, but they didn't even really do like that many. And then Mercedes Moné hit her shitty finisher, the thing where she's got her on the back and she flips her over. It's not a good move, especially for somebody that small. It's not a good move. But we'll go to the end here. Baker tossed Moné into the middle turnbuckle before hitting the Panama Sunrise. Britt's got a. I'm not going to get into why, but it is weird that she's using that move still, considering the life change that she's just gone through and how the other guy feels about it. It's like she needs to just not do the move, especially. And also, she got upset at other people for doing her moves that she never invented, by the way. There was a rumor going around that she was pissed off that Mariah May was doing the sling blade a while back. And here she is doing the Panama Sunrise, and then a curb stomp. But she does the curb stomp to Moné to try to get the pin, but Moné kicked out. At 2, Baker tried to get the lockjaw, but Moné bit Baker's fingers to break the hold and try to lock in the crucifix pin for a near fall. Baker went for a backslide. This is brutal. This is brutal. But Moné tossed Baker into the middle rope, sending her straight to another knee to Baker's back before hitting the Moné maker for the pinfall, and she retains the championship. So still champion Mercedes Moné. TNT Championship. Jack in a coffin match. Jack Perry versus Darby Allin. I thought this was match, but I thought there would be a lot more to it. I think that they were short on time, because I felt like they were going to go a bit longer and do more. But it just kind of like it was just weird how it ended. We'll go to the end. Plus they were doing the big Sting thing afterwards, not to bury the lead, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a good match. It was pretty cool because Darby came out. He had thumbtacks glued to his face. He started headbutting Perry. It was pretty cool. But so they came out and the coffin was out there, and I made a statement. This is why you never speak in absolutes. I can come off as a dummy. I said that Sting would 100% be in that coffin, and sure enough, he was not. But Allin tried to fight back by tossing Perry onto the stairs before diving off of the top rope with a senton while still wrapped on his hands with tape. Perry kicked Allin in the ribs to stop Allin from putting him in the coffin and headed to the stage, but Allin pulled his hair. Perry got Allin and hit a powerbomb on Allin on the stage. Perry then grabbed Allin's belt and attacked Allin with a belt before putting the belt on Allin's legs, which he followed by tossing Allin from the stage through the table. Perry then put Allin inside of a body bag, dragged him into the casket, tried to put Allin inside the coffin, but Allin popped his head from the body bag. Perry responded by catching Allin with a knee strike before closing the lid for the win, and he retained the TNT Championship. And then after the match, the Young Bucks brought a gas tank, or a petrol tank if you're in England. And then all of a sudden, lights go out and boom, motherfucker, Seek and Destroy by Metallica. Comes blaring through the arena. Sting shows up. Sting attacked the Jacksons before eating a chair shot from Perry, but Sting no-sold the chair shot and made Perry run away. Sting then hit the double scorpion death drops on the Jacksons before getting Allin out of the coffin. So I think the whole match, the match was short, but the stuff after it was pretty awesome. Again, not a bad match. I thought it was pretty good. And then, of course, the main event, I don't know. It's hard for me. I want to say the main event was my favorite match of the night, but I think bell to bell, I'd probably go with Ospreay MJF. But as far as like the totality of the match with the videos and the entrances and, Danielson coming out to Final Countdown, of course, that beautiful video that they played before he came out. And then, of course, Strickland coming out, and he had DJ Who Kid and Bun B, both that were recently on TNA, actually, in a weird trivia. They were with AJ Francis in TNA earlier this year, but I just loved everything about it, obviously with a couple of exceptions. But it was really a great way to close the show. I thought All In was a home run. So I think that if you guys are anti AEW, or if you didn't like this match, let's just keep it to this match. If you didn't like this match specifically, I just don't think you and I are on the same page. And in fact, maybe this podcast isn't for you. And maybe our network isn't for, maybe JD and I, Like, you just don't like us, because I got to tell you, this match was fucking great. I loved the match. I loved MJF versus Ospreay too. I thought Darby Allin and Jack Perry was really good. I would put that match behind Tony Storm and Mariah May. I thought the worst match of the night was Monet versus Baker, but that's also because I did not see Jericho versus Hook. I didn't. But I thought the show was paced well, tons of action, tons of surprises, just a fun show to watch, a fun 4 hours. In fact, I actually, because the pre-show came on at 6 a.m., my family was asleep, I watched 6 hours of wrestling today, except for the Jericho match. So I consumed a lot today. That's a lot to put out, by the way, AEW. You guys could slow that shit down. But it really was a fun show, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this overtime. So Patreon, as you can tell, this is audio only for you guys. I'm getting the audio out, and then I think eventually, probably like Monday night, maybe like after Raw, I'll live stream this on YouTube. So you guys will have the first run content, but I can't not put it on YouTube because I need to put something there too. So trying to serve two masters, but I didn't do video for it because I just couldn't get set up. I didn't want to get my lights out and the whole thing, and the nursery is a mess right now because we're trying to rearrange the whole thing. So if you do like scroll by our YouTube, it's just the Overtime logo. So that's all it is. So nobody got to see my face on this one, which is probably better for everybody if you think about it. But like I said earlier, if that TV deal gets announced, I'll probably pull out the cell phone. I'll just call JD and we'll just try to do some breaking news audio for you. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But if not, I'll catch you back here on Thursday night on the Mike and JD show. And until next time, mahalo.
I want to see something really scary.
Attention. Do I have everybody's attention now?